Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to this fourth episode of What's Next Beyond Service. Now, today we have with us Jamie J.J. James, who served as a Marine for 4 years, became a sergeant. He's an ammo tech, and transitioned from the military, went back home to Ohio, kind of like Liz Hartman did. If those of you that listened last week, she's an Ohio native who went back home, got educated. So this is kind of a similar route. So Jimmy went back to Ohio. She worked as a corrections officer for the county, the sheriff's department in the county where she lived for a while. And then at some point, she found her way and her purpose in working with her current employee or current employer now, where she is helping veterans make important decisions as they transition from service when it comes to, how do I need to take care of myself and my family as I'm making these decisions on survivor benefit plans or, what type of insurance I should have. So I've been watching her on LinkedIn. She's doing a great job, and I'm very excited to have her on board with us today. And just as a side note, Sarah Carell, who is my buddy as we do these interviews, she's having some technical issues. So she's watching this, but she's got some mic issues to where she's going to try to resolve that. So hopefully she'll be back on with us here and be able to, have input and ask good questions that, like she always does. So, okay. So all that being said, Jamie, I want to thank you again for coming on with us. I know you're busy. And as I said, I haven't seen you for a long time on LinkedIn, but you caught my attention because you made sense, you got to the point, and you're helping folks. Now, a lot of folks have opinions, and that's great, right? But when you have an opinion, but you can also focus on facts and on important things and narrow it down and provide, in a condensed, easy to understand format, what's important, and then how to take action in those areas. That's what people need when they're transitioning because they're swimming in all kinds of stuff. Whether you were in for 4 years, whether you spent 20 or 30 years, there's so much to consider. And it's easy to get lost in the shuffle, especially if you don't have a plan. And the things that you talk about are things that you don't want to forget about. There's timing involved with these things. So we're going to get to that, right? We'll talk about that here during the interview towards the back end. But right now, what I want to do is give you a chance to, introduce yourself to folks that will be watching here live or who will see this recorded. And we'll go through a series of questions that I'm going to ask you, and, we'll go back and forth on. And then also, if we have time, I want to enable folks that may be listening to ask you questions. And I think that's going to be a good part. If there are folks that are on at the end that, have questions, or maybe they've been frustrated because they didn't understand something, and, maybe you can shed some light on it for them as you do on LinkedIn. So with that said, tell us a little bit about yourself. I also don't want to forget, you're a mill spouse. You're married to a Marine. And
yes,
that's a big deal. You're doing all that, and you're a spouse to someone who's in active duty. Now, being a Marine, you kind of know the deal, but being married to a Marine and being out of the Marine Corps is a whole other ballgame. And there's so much. So hats off to you for that. So I'm gonna stop talking and I'm gonna hand it off to you. What's going on?
Thank you, Scott. I just want to first thank you for this opportunity to be on your show. I really appreciate it. I hope I can, make a positive impact on some people's lives and, hopefully teach them a thing or two.
Absolutely.
So, I grew up in Ohio, and then I joined the Marine Corps right after high school. I went to Okinawa, Japan for my first 2 years. I worked at an ASP counting bullets. And then following that, I went out to 29 Palms, California, and I was with TTECG. I was more on the administrative side, making spreadsheets, but I did go out into the field occasionally. And then in 29, that's where I met my husband. He was also with TTECG. So, that one good thing came out of the Marine Corps, right? And then when I got out of the Marine Corps, I went back home to Ohio. I started my BS in accounting. I chose accounting because, well, I like numbers, I like the challenge, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I wanted a skill that would be transferable with me. Following my husband around, it's not always easy to find a job, but everybody needs accountants. So that's kind of why I went down that route.
Yeah, that was very smart on your part. And as an ammo tech, somebody in ammo, is there accounting involved with ammunition, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there better be, right? That's kind of the big deal. So, yeah, as I was looking at, your profile and some of the information that you and I have discussed, that to me, that just seemed like kind of a logical thing, right? Accounting is huge, whether it's in the military or whether it's with a firm and you're spending money. You have money coming in, you have money going out. You need to know what's coming in, why it's coming in, where it is, where it's going, why it's going, where it's going. There's so much to understand about accounting, and you have to have that mindset. Accounting, it's more than just math. It's understanding a process of how accounting is done. So next week, just real quick, I'll be talking with Olivia Perez, who is a MilSpouse, and she's a big advocate on all things MilSpouse because, as you brought up, when you are moving with your spouse, a lot of times getting a job is difficult, especially if they understand that you're married to somebody in the military, right? Because they're saying, okay, this person's going to be here a couple of years and then they're gone. So how much time do we want to invest in this person? Maybe it depends on what job it is, right? If it's working at maybe a retailer, it might not be a big deal. But if it's an organization where they want to bring folks in and cultivate and grow people to stay in the organization, and maybe they're not national, but they're a good company, they may think twice about hiring someone who's going to be gone in a few years. So that's a tough balance to have to maintain when you're with a spouse and maybe at some point raising a family. There's just so much to consider. So good on you for making that decision to get a degree that's going to enable you to be more, easily plugged in where you go. So hats off to you for that. What, anything that led you to that other than just thinking, hey, I think that's smart? Or, did you have a propensity for the numbers? I think you mentioned that a little bit.
Yeah. I like numbers. I like tracking. And then, with being an ammo tech, spreadsheets, just keeping accountability of the ammo. I mean, what do you go to jail for? Losing ammo and, money reasons. So, I was good with accounting, and I thought it was a good career path. I thought it would have worked well with our family. So that's why I chose that.
No, absolutely. And my wife, she is no longer an engineer, but that's her background, mechanical engineer. Luckily, my kids have the smarts of their mom. They've got my tenacity, but they've got her brain power. And she is a spreadsheet maven. I mean, she can make those things sing. So whenever she talks about spreadsheets, I'm kind of like, okay, that's cool. I know that, she's got it wired, whatever. She makes spreadsheets for everything. But anyhow, okay, well, enough about her. So I'll get back to you. So you were talking about you chose accounting because you knew that would help you enable yourself to go wherever you go with your husband and be gainfully employed. So sorry for interrupting.
Yes. No, you're fine. You're fine. But to backtrack a little bit, I had zero intentions of getting out of the Marine Corps. When I first joined, I thought I was going to do my 20 years because I absolutely loved it. But then, as the time went on, I was beginning to second guess my decision. I'm like, is this really what I wanted to do? But I at least wanted to do 8 years. I felt like 8 years was, good number experience from, the junior Marine side and then up into like the sergeant staff and CO side, just to get a whole, picture of what the Marine Corps was like. I was about a year out from my EAS date, and TRS was mandatory, so I went to a TRS probably about 8 months out from transitioning. I don't remember much of it. It wasn't very significant. The first day we got our transcripts, I remember we spent about a day working on our resumes, another half day doing prac app interviews, and then we did a financial budget stuff. But other than that, like I said, I had intentions of staying in. I was quickly promoted in the Marine Corps. I was good at PT, good at my job, and then cutting scores plummeted when like my third year in. So I was quickly promoted to sergeant. And because of that, I was like, well, I want to be a billet. I want to give back to the Marine Corps because, the Marine Corps gave me so much. They gave me a family, they gave me a job, they gave me, they gave me a roof over my head. So I felt like a B billet, either recruiting or drill instructor. I felt like that was my way to give back to the Marine Corps. So I put my recruiting and my reenlistment package in. My reenlistment package, it did get approved, but my recruiting package didn't because too many E5s were already out of the MOS. I remember hearing that news. Yeah, I mean, I didn't think that was possible. I mean, I thought so many people are getting HISted. So I thought the odds of, me going recruiting were very high, but apparently I was wrong.
Yeah, well, that whole boat space thing, the first time you hear the word boat space, it's like, what the heck's that? And then you quickly understand what it is. And it goes back and forth. And, a lot of very good folks wind up making decisions to move on because of how that ebbs and flows. A lot of folks get promoted quickly. That's good because you wind up getting, kind of thrown into the fire because you're at that next rank. And maybe you didn't have a whole lot of time, from a leadership perspective, and even from an MOS perspective, kind of learning some of the things that you learn just through time, not through osmosis, but being in the seat, right? So then you get folks that are a little challenged because they got thrown into the deep end and they pick up rank quickly. Not everybody, but then you also have folks that are, that have made rank and then it slows down. I know I had a Marine, without getting into a lot of Marine Corps stories, I had a excellent sergeant that had the same issue. The way cutting scores went, he just wasn't going to get promoted to staff sergeant because of his MOS and the numbers. And it was a shame because, he was one of those guys that you could depend on for anything. He was always there before anybody. Somehow, he was the last to leave, but everything he touched was gold. He had a great family life. He's just one of those folks that you kind of gravitate towards. And I don't know what he's doing now. This was years ago, but yeah, it's unfortunate. But so, yeah, understandable. Absolutely.
Yeah, it was a tough decision to make. Do I stay another 4 years in the Marine Corps and let them decide my future, or do I get out and make my own path? And at this point, when I got the decision back, I had about 4 months left in the Marine Corps. I had 2 months of terminal saved up. So, I didn't have much time on my plate to act. I think I spent about a week contemplating everything. And I decided that getting out was my best route. It was a very tough decision because like I said, I love the Marine Corps. I love the camaraderie. I love the people. I loved what I did. But I felt like getting out and making my own path was the right decision.
Right. Yeah, there's so much to consider. Time-wise, without going into details on my transition out, but just kind of a baseline, they wanted me to stay in command an extra year as a battalion commander, which was great. And the follow-on would have been checks in the blocks, but it would have kept me away from my family for at least 4 years, doing geographic, geo-batching it, so to speak. And I would have missed my kids' high school. It was just too much, so I put in my retirement package and it got approved. And I only had, about 3-ish months to do the same thing, figure out, it's like, is that a cat or something?
Oh, no, it was a fly, sorry.
That was funny. It only went blank for a second. I thought, we had a bad connection, but anyhow, yeah, so yeah, very similar things, right? We all have those career issues as folks in the military when we're looking to transition. What do we do? How much time do you have? Do you feel that you can spend time on yourself. A lot of people feel guilty if they're still in the military and they're worried about themselves transitioning out. They feel like they're not giving that 110% that you should be giving till that very last breath as a Marine, right? I suffered through that. I didn't have anyone to turn over with, so that was, I just couldn't leave it, right? So my situation was a little different, but we all, I think, battle with that, when to let go. And the transition class that I went through, it was at Miramar. I came back to the West Coast to attend that because I wanted to sit down with the folks at the DAV office there at Miramar because they're a good office. They're solid folks. So, but that was 2012, and transition was not what it is now. What year was it again that you transitioned out?
2016.
Okay, yeah. So it was probably a little better than what I experienced in 2012, and I'd say that it's definitely gotten better. There's still so much that can improve, but I do know that LinkedIn has been a very valuable tool, and you even talked about that too. And we can talk about that a little bit maybe down the road here in our conversation about the folks, the tribe that you can find here on LinkedIn, folks who have served and are spending time coaching folks in the military, giving advice, and it's not just the things that might seem, readily important, but there are also things that help you on figuring out maybe who you are as a person. What are the things that you need to consider, mentally as a person, not just for career. So there's a lot to talk about in that regard. So your transition was kind of a vanilla transition in terms of you having an epiphany that, the folks that were saying you need to do this, that, and the other, you sat there and you shook your head, you checked the block, and then you were out, right? So then what happened?
Well, when I got out, I moved back home to Ohio, like I said. I'm thankful I had a supportive family back home, so I was able to move in with them. I know no 23-year-old wants to move back in with their family, but I felt like that was the right decision financially.
Sure.
Within a couple months, I was able to get a job at the jail, the correctional facility. It wasn't my top choice in jobs, but I was able to work third shift. I made decent money, good benefits, and it worked with my school schedule. I could work at night and come home and sleep a couple hours, go to class, and then, do homework in the evenings. So that worked out for me. And I started school the following January. It all went really fast. I definitely made some mistakes during my transition. I didn't seek mentorship, which I should have. I wish I would have been more active on LinkedIn. I think I made an account during TRS, but I never engaged on it or looked to see, all the possibilities, all the help, all the mentors and coaches out there. I didn't, look for any of that. I kind of felt like, I was only in for 4 years. It's like, okay, you're only in for 4 years. The transition's easy for you. You got in, you get out, there you go. Have a good life.
Yeah. I think a lot of folks make those same mistakes. You don't know what you don't know. I think Yogi Berra, is the guy that came up with that phrase, but it is true. You just, unless you have a lot of times perspective in life, you're just not going to have a full appreciation for the things that are out there. And I think I've seen that people that are on active duty that become involved in LinkedIn, I think they have a better, shot at transition because they put their foot in the pool and they start to see, like you've talked about, that crowd that's on LinkedIn. So there's goodness there. And then hopefully what they're doing is they're turning around and talking to their folks, their young enlisted folks or, their contemporaries and saying, hey, this LinkedIn thing is actually, it's a good thing. You guys need to log on, get an account and start thinking about what's next. Because you really need to be thinking 2 years out. When you have 4 months to transition, that's nowhere near the time you need. And you do make mistakes. I made mistakes as well. We all do. So you talked about working and going to school. I did that same thing years back. I feel for you in terms of going to school in the day, working in the evening, that's a lot to balance. But you did it. And, good on you. Because a lot of folks begin it and then it's just too hard. Or maybe they find that it's just not what they want to do. And it's not for everybody. So hats off to you for making that happen. That's a big deal. A lot to balance there.
Thank you. It was very challenging. I had almost no social life, but it was well worth it in the end.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So, okay. Well, I've got a question for you about, you like to work out, stay in shape. You've got 2 dogs and a husband. You like to go out and do outdoor stuff. Was this something that you always, this is kind of a segue because I forgot to ask about this earlier. I'm kind of jumping back in time. What was the outdoor life and, your health, was that something that you kind of always held dear, or was that something that came from your time in the Marine Corps?
I've always held it dear. I was an athlete growing up. I played almost every sport. And then and then like my senior year, that's when I started getting into working out by myself. I would, do a lot of cardio and, abs and stuff like that. And then it wasn't until I joined the Marine Corps, that's when I learned how to lift weights. I had a great group of friends that would take me to the gym and, just show me how to lift weights and how to build muscle. And it kind of became an addiction. So I'm thankful for them. I'm thankful for what they taught me. So I've been lifting for about 8 years strong now.
Oh, that's fantastic. And the reason I'm kind of circling back to that, because I want to use it as kind of a transition marker, because I think a lot of folks, when they get out, they take that deep breath and, PT is something that goes off, it goes in a different direction because they're busy. You're probably no more busy than you were when you were serving, just a different kind of busy. You don't have the regiment, you don't have that drum keeping you in cadence because you're out and you're trying to figure things out. And a lot of folks let their physical health go, so you're battling the mental struggles of who am I? What the heck do I want to do? How do I get there? And if you ignore your physical self, then that's just going to add to the things that you're struggling with, in terms of looking for what you want to do. So it's so important. Dr. Teresa Larson, I'm connected with her on LinkedIn. In fact, she was one of the first folks I interviewed here on this program. She's all about that. And so I was just curious for you, and it looks like you've got that wired as well. And that's something that's very important for folks transitioning out, is don't forget about your physical self. Whether you don't have to work out as hard as you did when you were in the military, but figuring out what's right for you and being continuous, right? Make sure you're doing it. That's so important, because it's easy to get sidetracked. Definitely. Like I just sidetracked you from our conversations.
Well, that's one of the reasons I joined the Marine Corps, because I kept hearing about, the physical challenge, and I'm like, oh, I'm up for the physical challenge. Let's do this. And it did not disappoint. I loved my 5:15 PT every day in the morning. I loved leading PT and, help people improve themselves physically and mentally. It was a great time. I loved it. I really did.
Yeah. Now, are you still getting up and doing 5:15 PT now, or are you finding time in the day?
It's closer to 5:30, 6 o'clock, but I still wake up about 5 every day to walk my dogs, and then I work out right after that.
So you're slacking off just a little bit, right?
Just a little bit, yeah.
Yeah. For me, I was never really a early morning PT person. I get up early and go to work, not an issue. I just never really liked getting up and going right to PT. I was always kind of hey, it's about 1100. It's time to start transitioning. So I was always midday or maybe later in the evening kind of workout person. So yeah, I always admired the folks that were able to get up with a smile on their face and motivated, ready to hit it at the crack of dawn. That's, I could do it, but it wasn't my, hey, that's the first thing I want to do today.
Well, part of the reason is my home gym is out in our garage, and it's not climate controlled. So if I don't work out at 6 o'clock in the morning, it's way too hot in there to work out. So that's part of my motivation.
Yeah, well, that's smart, right?
Yeah. Yes.
All right. Well, yeah, sorry for, getting off topic there, at least in terms of, where we were in our discussion, but I did recall that, and it is something that's important for folks to. Okay. That's the first time I've had that interruption with a call during a interview. But so, okay, well, now you're back at home, you're in school, you're working, and then you are looking after you graduate. I guess that's when you're looking for your next thing, right? So, or did you wind up finding a job with the folks you're working with now while you were in school? Let's go ahead and shift gears and talk about what you're doing now.
So I moved out to Fort Leonard Wood with my husband, 2 years ago, and I was still finishing up school, about 8 months of school left. So I got my degree. It was the middle of COVID. I had a hard time. I still wanted an accounting job or a position at this point. I studied 4 years for it. That's what I thought I really wanted to do. So I was applying for jobs for accounting, but everybody wanted, for an entry level position, they wanted someone with 4 to 6 years of experience. So I wasn't landing any jobs or opportunities. And then on Indeed, I came across a securities assistant position for Jones Investment Group. So I applied for it and went to the interview. Everything went great. And then on the second interview, I talked to Merle Jones. I'm still, thinking I'm getting the securities position at this point. And he's like, Jamie, I don't think you're going to be happy sitting at a desk doing paperwork. And then he brought up the United Veteran Team, or the United Shield Team, my bad, and about what their purpose is and how they help transitioning service members. And my eyes lit up. I'm like, oh my gosh, that sounds like a great opportunity. I would love to be back involved in the military community and help people out. And not to mention half the team, they're either military spouses or veterans. So, I felt like I would be right at home. And that's why I took that position, because what their mission is, it's something I could resonate with. Like I wanted to help people out because like when I was in the Marine Corps and I got out, I was having these feelings of inadequacy because I didn't feel like I did enough in the Marine Corps, that I didn't give back. I thought recruiting was going to be my way to get back to the Marine Corps. But that never happened.
Right.
And then now that I'm on the team with the United Shield Team, I no longer have those feelings of inadequacy because I believe in our purpose. I believe in what we do. And I love being able to assist transitioning service members with one of their aspects of the transitioning process.
Yeah, that's huge. So in other words, you're saying you found purpose after
Yes.
being in the military and specifically as a Marine, and that is a huge thing, to find something that gives you that same. It might not be the exact same feeling as being a Marine, but when you find that purpose to get up in the morning and to go do something that you enjoy, and helping people is a big deal. I love to help folks, and that is what I found my passion to be when I left service. But a lot of folks struggle with this. And so, thank you for feeling, good about being able to talk about those feelings. A lot of folks serve and feel like they didn't do enough. Even if they did tremendous things, they still feel like they didn't get to that point that they wanted to achieve. Whether it's, I didn't go to combat, or I didn't make this rank, or I didn't get this job, this billet. So a lot of things go into our hearts and minds when we're thinking about, who we want to be. What's the path? How do we find that job that we're looking for? There's so much to consider. And that's why it is important to have a mentor, to find your tribe. A lot of folks get out and they try to do it themselves because they think, hey, I'm educated, or I did well, in the military. I should have no problem getting a job. And then they realize it's not that easy. And all these things start layering on top of each other. And then you get a spiral. And some folks really have a difficult time figuring out who they are and what they want to do. And being able to find something, again, that provides purpose in life is a big deal. And I'm so happy that you have. And that's one thing I notice about you on LinkedIn is that it doesn't take long to tell that you like what you're doing and you're passionate. And passion is something that brings people to you. And especially when you have something good to say, right? So you're bringing a lot of goodness to the platform of LinkedIn and your job. Those two things are helping people. So that's what I want to do now. I want to turn this over to you and let you promote the important things that you do in your current job that help folks that are on, you're either sitting there thinking, okay, I'm going to be leaving, or I'm in the process now, or I have just transitioned. I don't have a whole lot of time. Let's talk about those things and, provide some detail and some things for folks to think about. So when they're looking at all those decisions they need to make financially in terms of, the insurance that they're not going to have, what are my options? So I want you to talk about that because you do that so well. And I know this is going to be helpful for folks. So here we go.
Absolutely, Scott. So to give a little bit of background about what I do, as you mentioned, I'm a benefits specialist for United Shield Life Insurance. I educate, service members on SBP, VGLI, SGLI, and commercial life insurance. With that, I'm also an independent life insurance agent, meaning I'm not married to one insurance company. If you choose to go the insurance route, I have a pool of carriers that we could send you through. So depending on the type of policy, your health, if you chew tobacco, we have companies that would give you a non-tobacco rating. If you're a healthy individual, other companies might be better. And then there are many different types of policies, term, permanent, return on premium policies. So we have this pool of options for you. So when it comes to tailoring the policy to you, we're able to do that. So that's one thing that separates us from another insurance company like USAA or First Command. They go through one person, we have a pool of people we can go through.
Right. It's good to have options.
Yes, definitely. And I guess to get into a few tips and tricks about what to look for and when you should be looking into life insurance or SBP and VGLI. First off, I want to say if you're looking into commercial life insurance, do it before your VA disability claim because your VA disability claim can have an impact on your rating with the insurance company, and you want to appear as healthy as possible to the insurance company. So I usually recommend 6 to 12 months out from transitioning at the very least before you start your VA disability claim. Sleep apnea, that's a 50% VA disability rating, but that's also a standard rating at best for an insurance company. So, there's two ways to look at it.
Yeah, that's a great comment there. Sometimes the VA takes a little bit of time to, finally get that claim processed, but absolutely, because you never know what your claim's going to come out at, what percentage that, you will or will not get. So yeah, you absolutely have a wider aperture for a better policy if you get it done in time. Not to mention that's just one less thing that's important. You really have to understand how important that is. That's probably one of the things you want to get off the top of your checklist. So.
Definitely. And, I hear a lot of transitioning service members, they say, well, I have SGLI for 120 days after I separate from the military. So why would I start the process if I still get life insurance for free? Well, your VA disability claim, if that comes back beforehand, that can severely affect your rating. And what if the rating comes back and you get a poor rating or you're uninsurable? You want to still have your options on the plate. You still want VGLI or SBP to be available to you to choose from. Because if you, deny those and you get a poor rating, then what are your options? So it's better to start the process sooner rather than later. Definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you have any specific questions that you would like me to answer, or do you just want me to keep going on with VGLI?
Yeah, let's go on. Just for the sake of time, and making sure that you cover the things that you want to cover. What we can do, and outside of a question that I may have, I want to leave the back end of this open for anyone that may be, here viewing that would have a question. So we'll leave the question and answer thing for the end, because I know if there are folks watching, they're going to probably have a couple questions for you.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah,
I'll start off with Oh, okay. I'll start off with the SBP Survivor Benefit Plan. This is for retiring service members. The premium is 6.5% of the base amount or retirement pay. So I say base amount because you can choose a minimum of $300 up to the full retirement pay. For the payout for your spouse or whomever. So if you don't want to choose your full retirement pay, you could choose a lower amount, and premiums are 6.5 of that, and your payout is 55% of your retirement pay. A common misconception is that your VA disability is included in there. It's not. SBP is your retirement pay only. VA disability is not included. That being said, the premiums come out before taxes, but the payout is taxed. So that's something to keep in mind. So say for an E8 that's retiring at 20 years, the SBP or the retirement pay would be about $2,500, premiums about $170, but the yearly payout is only like 12 to 14 grand. That's something to really think about when you see those numbers. Is that enough for your spouse to live off of? Does your spouse currently work, or she or he, a homemaker? What's going to be enough to give your spouse coverage to, pay for all the expenses and take care of your family? So that's one thing that we really like to emphasize is that payout going to be enough to protect your family?
right. And with
And then
and with that, you also there's a decision to make, right? If you're married, whether you do that or not. And
mhm,
if for whatever reason there's a decision not to, that spouse has to be made aware of it, right? They also have to
yes,
agree to that in writing. So it's a
yes,
legal
absolutely.
thing, but you know, sometimes folks, for whatever reasons, they wind up, going their separate ways. And so, uh, isn't there if you're married for X amount of years, uh, aren't you entitled to that retirement pay? I don't recall what that number is.
I'm not
Is
sure if there's a specific number. I think it's written in like the divorce papers, or when they go to court, that's something that they decide on. I don't think there's like a specific number of
yeah,
years.
I again, this is kind of a sidebar thing. I thought it was if you're married for 10 years, like over 10 years, then the
Mhm.
spouse becomes eligible for your retirement pay. And anyhow, yeah, that's a whole other thing. That's not it's not a nice thing to talk about, but a lot of folks go through that. So yeah, that's something that folks need to be aware of. But anyhow,
Definitely, definitely. And also with SBP, the premiums and the payout increase with inflation and COLA. So as your retirement pay increases, the premiums will increase as well. So what you're looking at 170 today, it could be, 200, 250 in the future. So that's, one con of SBP. And then also after paying into SBP for 30 years and reaching age 70, you are considered paid up and you no longer have any payments into SBP. I usually recommend SBP to individuals who either don't get or don't apply or not apply for coverage. They don't get a good rating, or they get denied coverage from an insurance company. You definitely want to take SBP then, and then maybe get it in conjunction with with VGLI to get that extra, $400,000 kicker if anything were to happen to you. And one thing people don't know about is children only SBP. So say your spouse doesn't need SBP, you decide to get a life insurance policy or go another route, you could get SBP for your children. So if your children are under 18 or under the age of 22, if they're going to school, they could receive that payout. So that could be a little extra income towards the family. So that's just one thing to think about, and it's very inexpensive. Somewhere from like $5 to $10 a month, depending on the age of the youngest and the retiree. So definitely an option to look into.
Absolutely.
So yeah, so I guess that's all I have with SBP. With VGLI, we all know the max amount of coverage you can get is $400,000. But the premiums increase every 5 years. So they're fairly inexpensive from like age 30 to 50. But once you hit that age 55, age 60, premiums increase over $300, $400. And then by the time you reach age 75, premiums are about $1,500. So it definitely gets more expensive as you age. But once again, it's a good option if you are uninsurable or get a poor rating, or if you decide to get out and you don't have a life insurance policy in place. Definitely take VGLI until you can get another policy in place, because you can cancel VGLI at any time. So it's definitely know your options, and know what plan works best for you. I'm not saying life insurance is always the best plan, or SBP or VGLI. It really just depends on your plan and what works best for you and your family. So that's one thing, I try to help service members do, is figure out the best plan for them. It might be VGLI and a commercial life insurance policy, because VGLI is pretty inexpensive when you're younger.
Right.
So that's what I try to help service members do, is create a plan, a future plan to protect their family.
Yeah, you have to have a plan, and then at some point you have to execute that plan. A lot of folks are good at planning, but they're not so good at, hitting the button and making it happen. And these things, yes, you have to do your homework, but then you have to act as well. For us, we went the route, the survivor benefit plan that, my wife is going to be, covered at that rate if I should go first. So, we felt comfortable with that. But when we looked at the insurance piece and started doing, my wife, the spreadsheet gal, she started, looking out into the out years, and just like you said, it does this with how much you're having to pay out of pocket. And so for us, that just didn't make sense. So we decided to, get insurance, on the outside. And we got a really good, won't go into all the details and numbers, but we got a life insurance policy that we were very comfortable with, that it was weighted more towards my expiration than it was hers, because the way we're set up, with my retirement, and I've got some disability as well. If she were to pass, I'm going to be okay financially. But, if I'm to pass and everything that's, mine goes away, because the VA goes away, she won't get anything, for my VA pay that I get for disability. And then she'll go down to that reduced amount that we get for my retirement. So we decided to weight the insurance heavy in her favor in case I go first. We're a little older, and if she wants to go out and get a job, then she'll do what she wants. But the way we've planned this, she won't have to, as she's older. And that's what all that's for, right? You want to make sure that you build that that umbrella or that net, however you want to phrase that will allow you to, be comfortable in life later and not have to worry about where that next paycheck's going to come from. So, you can continue to live life. You don't have to have an extravagant life, but a life that you can still go and do things, and you're not worried about your bills. And hopefully you're going to be healthy. And that's the other thing that you mentioned about the VGLI. If you wait, like you talked about, until after your VA claim is done, that might be the only insurance option you have because you waited. And that's why that's so smart of you to make sure folks understand that you knock that out right away, so that you have the best option and you're setting yourself up for success down the road. It's so easy to get caught up in what's in front of you that you don't see what, down the road. And these things are hugely important because it has to do with your money and your health. And so, I'm glad you brought that up. So,
yeah, definitely. Oh, and to tag on to your health, if you're using tobacco, if you're smoking, I highly recommend quitting a few years out. If you're tobacco free for a year, you can get at least a standard rating, or at best a standard rating. If you quit smoking for 3 years, you can get up to a preferred rating. So smoking severely, impacts your rating. So I highly encourage you to stop. If you're looking for, a sign to stop, this is it. If you're looking to transition, definitely.
Yeah, amen to that. On a personal note, I've never smoked. My dad smoked from the time he was a kid. He was a teenager, and he smoked a couple packs a day, and he quit when he was 40. He was in the Air Force, right? He did 20 years, and he wound up dying of lung cancer just a couple years after retiring from the military. He was 42, and smoking. I've always, even as a little kid, I just looked at it and thought, that's kind of stupid. Why are you going to breathe smoke into your lungs? I know that, there's an addictive quality that, it maybe helps with stress or whatever. But boy, smoking causes so many problems with your health. And to your point, you want to be insurable. You want to build the best case for you long term, especially if you're married and you have kids, because you care about those folks, and odds are they care about you too, and they want you around. So, the sooner you quit smoking, life just becomes better in so many ways. So that's my non-paid advertisement for not smoking. Yeah, good point though. Thanks for bringing that up.
You're welcome, Scott.
Yeah.
I think that's all I have for SBP and VGLI. I'm sorry, what were you going to say?
No, I was going to say, if you had anything else, do you want to talk about any other types of insurance at all? Do you want to just kind of, touch some of the main topics there?
Yes. I'll talk about term and permanent coverage, which are your two main types of life insurance. Term, it's temporary coverage, 10, 15, 20, 30 years of coverage. I recommend this coverage for anyone who just needs a large amount of life insurance for a shorter period of time. It's the most expensive way or inexpensive way to get coverage. You could use this coverage for, income replacement, to cover your mortgage if anything were to happen to you. And term policies also allow you to build up your assets. So say you get a 30-year term policy, that gives you 30 years to build up your assets. So when that 30-year term policy expires, you still have your assets to live off of, whatever you invested, your retirement fund, and you may not need a permanent policy at that point because you'd be self-insurable. So that's how I recommend term policies. And then we also have permanent products, which are your universal life products, your index universal life products, whole life. With permanent products, they give you coverage for life, and some of them also have the option of building a cash value. They are more expensive, but if you're like some people and you're not a saver, you're not much of an investor, but you want to leave that legacy to your family, then permanent coverage would probably be your best route to go.
Right. Yeah,
and
I know. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, and I was just going to bring up riders, which are additions to policies that you can add on. So say like there's the child rider, if you want to give your children some coverage for when they're younger. There are return on premium options. There's accidental death benefit options. So there are a lot of ways to tailor the policy to fit you and your lifestyle and your family's needs.
Right. Yeah, life insurance is always something, at least most folks that I know, that's not like the first thing that they're excited to want to do. Right. Because, there's money involved, right? It's not free, you got to pay for it, but it's stressful. I think for a lot of folks because they want to find the right vehicle for them. It's about money, but it's also about really understanding what insurance is about. What phase of life are you in? And, what are your goals in life? What do you want to leave stuff to folks, or are you interested in, being comfortable with, you and your spouse being comfortable, as you live your life? There's just a lot to consider with insurance, and the ability to, talk to folks about these things and convince them of the importance, as you're doing, for the timing. This timing is everything. You know, you've talked about it. And when you're leaving the military, you've got a lot to consider. And this is something that it has to be at the top of your list. Folks that have made the transition, that have done so successfully, I guarantee you that the ones that have been successful will all have this in common, that they made it a point to understand the importance of insurance, look at the timelines, and then act accordingly. You know, how many folks have you come across, and maybe not many because of how you approach this, but how many folks have you come across that are completely lost when it comes to insurance? And maybe they waited a little too long, you know, percentage wise. How many folks that you work with fall into that category?
Unfortunately, I'd say probably about 30 or 40% of the people that I talk to, they either already transitioned or they already started their VA disability claim or within a month of transitioning. I'm not saying it's too late at that point, but you know, you've already had VA appointments. So I'm not saying you're not insurable, but it may be harder to get, you know, the good rating that we're hoping for. It's been, you know, circulating LinkedIn a lot. Everybody's encouraging people to, you know, get life insurance before you start your VA disability claim. It's not something that's discussed in TAPS or TRS or anything like that. So it makes me happy to see that people are realizing, hey, I do need to get life insurance before I transition, before I start my VA claim, because you know, you know a handful of people that didn't, and they're uninsurable. And
Right.
you know, it's heartbreaking, really. It's like, I'm sorry I couldn't have, you know, passed this information on to you. I'm sorry I didn't know you, you know, 6-8 months ago. You know, I wish I could have told you this information.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, the other thing is when you're young and you get out, you still think you're, you know, semi-invincible, right? You know,
Yeah,
you're not
definitely.
thinking in those terms. And even when you get married, sometimes you're still not there. But I think once you have kids, I think that's when you really start to wake up to, oh, wow, hey, I have a legacy now. And I have things that as a dad or as a mom that I have to ensure are done and done well. So, yeah, it's all really good stuff. Well, it's we're about 50-ish minutes into this. So if you're good with this, let me check. And again, I apologize. I'm still on my phone here. So let me see what we've got going on here. Okay. And being on my phone, it's kind of hard to see. And Sarah, were you able to come on? I don't see you here.
Yes. I'm on twice.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah, we had a
let's see
little
if this works.
Yeah, there's a little bit of
Are you
feedback.
getting a reverb?
Yes.
Sorry.
Well, let me ask a question of you real quick. Do we have anybody that's in the queue that wants to ask questions?
I was just going to say there's another Sarah on the group. So there's the 4 of us.
Okay.
If she unmutes, I can just share before she unmutes that, Jamie, this was interesting. I'm really grateful for people like you.
Thank you.
Because there's many of us who are not like you, who are great at spreadsheets and all these statistics and all the numbers and that sort of thing. And it just sounded like you brought a lot of great information. So I'm actually thinking of one person in particular that I'm going to share this with, who is like 5 months out transitioning. So what I'm hearing you say is get life insurance right before you submit your VA claim. Or
Yes,
is that
if you're looking, yes, if you're looking into life insurance, if that's the route you're wanting to take, definitely, you know, apply for it, get your rating before you start your VA claim. If that's the option they choose to take, I know there's SBP or VGLI, there are other options. So as long as they are, you know, well informed of their options and, you know, life insurance is the best route for them, then definitely before they start their VA disability claim.
That's great. Thank you. A lot of great information today.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it absolutely was. And, you know, I know Jamie, you're connected with Matt Quick, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
Matt, he's not an insurance guy, but he talks about that a lot. And, I like to read. Most of what he posts is very informative, and it's absolutely pointed towards transitioning military and veterans. And I even saw that, sometimes he'll tag you as, hey, insurance, talk to Jamie James. She's the gal. And that's a good endorsement because, if you've read and pay attention to Matt, he knows what he's talking about. That's not his job. He doesn't sell insurance, but him and his wife spent a lot of time looking at this, and they made the decision that was right for them. And, if he's going to say, hey, Jamie's someone that you should talk to, there's a lot of weight behind that. I see who you are and what you're doing, but when folks like him are, saying, hey guys, look over here, that's a good thing. That's a good endorsement.
It definitely is.
Okay, well, Sarah, if we don't have anybody that's here and ready to ask questions, I think we'll probably get ready to wrap this thing up here, unless you have any other questions, Sarah.
No, I don't. Great job it's really great to hear both of you be in this conversation because, Scott, you have your angle that you're sharing all this great transition advice. And then Jamie, everything that you know about insurance. I live near Miramar, excuse me, the planes are flying over now. But so anyway,
Sounds of freedom.
have a second like this.
Yeah, it's always good to have, and that's what this is about, right? What's next beyond service, and absolutely the platform that you've built with the power of our story, being able to bring people in who have served and have a story to tell, because we all have a different background. We did different things in the military. We were different branches. We all have a heart of service. I firmly believe in that. You don't serve and walk away not understanding how important service is. And like Jamie, she's found that in her life, what's important is giving back and, making sure that she's helping folks that she has an affinity for, people who serve. And it's good to be able to take care of these folks because not everybody serves. 1% or less serve our military. And that's a small number. And we have to make sure that these folks are taken care of. Some of them leave service and they need a lot of help, because they were injured or, they're dealing with other issues that are taking away from what they're trying to accomplish when they get out of the military. So there's a lot of areas where we as veterans can turn around and give our hand to help people up and to help them find their purpose and to understand that you're not alone as you transition, whether it's determining what you need insurance wise, whether it's, hey, how do I deal with the feelings that I'm having now because I miss the camaraderie? What do I do? There's just so many things that impact you that you just don't know about until you're in the gauntlet, until you've had that retirement ceremony, until that last day when you're lacing your boots up for the last time. I remember that very vividly in my mind because I always thought about it. Yeah, it might sound corny, but I always thought, what would that last day look like for me? When I retired, whether it was 20 or 25, 30 years. And as I was lacing my boots, it's like, hey, today is that day that I've thought about for so many years. And I remember, I could see my hands right now tying my boots, then wrapping around and tying that double knot, tucking in the laces into the top of my boots, and then, strapping your boot band around the top of your boots and saying, wow, this is the last time that I will ever do this as a Marine. And you underestimate, you think you're going to be okay. And chances are you're not going to have everything covered. But that's okay because you'll figure it out. And there are people out there like Jamie and other folks that have, they've made their exit and then they did a smart about face and they're there to help you as you transition, and not just transitioning, but as veterans too. We're all here to help each other, and that's what the tribes on LinkedIn are all about. That's what, again, your platform, Sarah, is all about with Power of Our Story. That's what, we're trying to do here with this show, is be visible, talk about things that are important, sense of purpose. This is just, it's goodness all around. And Jamie, I'm so happy, as is Sarah, that you were able to spend time with us today and tell us about who you are and about the good stuff that you're doing, helping veterans, and the fact that you're happy and you're doing, good things in your life that you find being that are satisfactory to you, that give you that reason to get up every morning. Not everyone finds that maybe as quickly as you did. Some folks take a long time, but thank God that you're where you are and that you're helping folks. That is absolutely appreciated. Thanks so much for your time today and coming on. And we look forward to, maybe down the road having you back on again to maybe talk about some other things that you're doing and share some more good stories with us.
Absolutely. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you,
Absolutely. Thanks so much. You guys.
Appreciate having you.
Okay, well, you guys take care. And just real quick, next week, I mentioned this earlier, we're going to have on Olivia Perez. She is a mil spouse. She works for higher military. She's really, come online with who she is as a person. She's found herself, and, she's doing good things for spouses that want to be employed as, they're moving from location to location with their husbands or wives, in the military. So that should be another good call. All right. Thanks, guys. And we'll see you next time around. Take care.